It is time, so we would like to start the announcement of the consolidated business results for FY2017 first quarter of Start today. Let us introduce the presenters today. Koji Yanagisawa, VP, Vice President and CFO. And Fuminori Hirose, General Manager of the Business Management Division. And Yasuhiro Tsunei, the Director of the Business Management Division. So 3 members will be presenting today. We are planning to finish at 6 p.m. today. Please refrain from taking any photographs or video during this session. If we could invite Vice President CFO Koji Yanagisawa to take the stage. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It's always at 5, but it's quite late and it's quite hot today, so thank you for coming today. We would like to now share the consolidated business results for the first quarter of FY2017. So this is just a summary of the documents that you have. We have passed out. This is page 3 on the documents that you have. This is an overview of this quarter. The transaction value was 59.5 billion, up by 40% year-on-year. The operating profit was 59% up year-on-year at 7.9 billion, and the OP margin was 13.4%, up by 1.5 points year-on-year. The transaction value and operating profit both far surpass our corporate plans, which is undisclosed. So the first quarter for the FY2017, we are off to a great start. This is not included in the documents that you have, but we introduce this every time, at every session. This shows is a graph of the transaction value growth rate for ZOZOTOWN business by quarter. This excludes ZOZOUSE. It's just ZOZOTOWN business without including ZOZOUSE. But this first quarter, as you can see, it has grown. It has maintained a high year-on-year growth. Some of the factors contributing to this, there's 3 actually. One is what we began last fiscal year, but we accelerated the speed at which we added new shops this fiscal year as well. And the second factor is the deferred payment of 2 months we introduced last fiscal year. So this implementation has contributed, and also the third factor is the brand coupons and retargeting ads. So we were able to run these promotions effectively and efficiently. So for example, brand coupon, in order to increase the sales per day, we began issuing more co-branded coupons. So we issued more of the co-branded coupons. So these are the 3 key factors have contributed to our high growth for this quarter. Next, this is page 5. This is the increase-decrease analysis of the operating profit against the figures from last year. So the OP was 5 billion in FY2016, but increased by 2.97 billion and landed at 7.98 billion this quarter. The transaction value increased by 2 billion, and gross profit margin increased by 0.4 billion. And we were able to be more efficient with respect to fixed costs due to increase in transaction value, which contributed to 0.7 billion. But this has come down also because of the payroll and also goodwill amortization. So these have offset the increase. And the gross profit margin improved due to the changes in sales mix of the ZOZOTOWN consignment business and also other sales, increase in other sales, such as mainly shipping and also service charge on payments. So this other sales has contributed to the improvement in the gross profit margin. Next, page 6 on your document. The consolidated balance sheet. There's nothing really, no major change except for the fact that on June 30th, 2017, we retired all of our treasury stocks. Therefore, our treasury stocks as of now are 0. Other than that, there's no major changes. Next, on page 9, you will find the transaction value by quarter. This quarter, the transaction value was 59.5 billion, up 40.9% year-on-year. A closer look at this. ZOZOTOWN business was 57.8 billion, up 43% year-on-year. Consignment was 54.5 billion, up 44%. And ZOZO Used was 3.3 billion, up 26%. And B2B business was 1.5 billion, minus 5%. So as you can see, the consignment business, which comprises a major portion of the business, ZOZO business, drove growth. Next, net sales by quarter. This is similar to the transaction value, but the sales was 21.4 billion, up 39.4% year-on-year. And the same reasons as we mentioned before. On page 14, you have the operating profit and operating profit margin by quarter. The OP, operating profit, was up 59% year-on-year at 7.9 billion. The OP margin was, as I mentioned before, 13.4%. This is higher than the initial plan for the fiscal year, which was 11.9%. So this is higher. But this is mainly due to the promotions. We actually plan to launch promotions after the second quarter this year. So the promotion cost for the first quarter isn't really, we didn't use much budget on the promotion, so that is why the operating profit is higher. And this shows why by page on page 15, you'll find the SG&A by quarter. SG&A was 11.8 billion this quarter. Against the transaction value, it decreased from 20.8% last fiscal year to 19.9%. As I already mentioned, because the transaction value increased, this has enabled us to be more efficient in terms of fixed costs. So that is the major factor. And also, as I already mentioned as well, we didn't really run large-scale promotions in the first quarter. So the promotion costs, as you can see here, is 1.5%. So it's quite low. So that is why the OP profit margin was high for this quarter. Next, on page 17, we would like to go over the KPIs for ZOZOTOWN business. The number of total buyers have increased to 6.73 million by 410,000 buyers, and active members increased by 280,000 people to 4.818 million since the previous quarter, and the guest members increased by 120,000 people to 2.55 million. The factors contributing to this growth, there's 3 key factors. One is the new shops that we have welcomed actively. The second factor is the actively issuing brand coupons. This has also activated existing members and also welcome new members, and the offering of more payment options. So these three are the key factors that have contributed to the increase in the number of total buyers. Next, on page 19, the number of shops. As of the end of this quarter, the number of shops was 987 shops. Comparison to the previous quarter, we added 33 shops. So we will continue to be aggressive in terms of welcoming new shops this fiscal year. Some of the examples of the brands that have joined us this quarter is Adastoria's Junior brand, Top Junior, RPPR Mario, and also Wacoal's key brand, Wing, as well as Shiseido Cosmetics. Maquillage, for example, is one of the brands, Integrate, Majorica. So these are some of the brands from Shiseido we've welcomed, which is offered in the shop called Watashi Plus by Shiseido, as well as a brand of glasses, Zolf. And with respect to foreign brands, we have welcomed Emporio Armani. So we have welcomed new shops this quarter, 47 new shops. Sorry about that. The names of some of the brands are quite difficult. It's a mouthful. Next, this slide is not included in your deck, but the number of brands as of this quarter was 5,859 brands. The numbers is actually a little bit different from the past. There was a difference between the previous count of brands and also the actual number of brands. So from this quarter, we've changed the definition of brands. Before, we actually counted the shop category that is affiliated with each shop, but now we're counting each brand offered on ZOZOTOWN as unique. That is why the number of brands is 5,859 brands now. But you see the past figures up there as well. But in any case, we have continued to increase the number of brands we offer. Until now, the number of brands were systematically counted as shop categories, but we are actually starting to count the number of brands as uniques. So that is bringing us to a total of 5,859. Next, page 20, the annual purchase amount per active member and purchase pieces. The purchase amount was 47,119, and the purchase pieces was 10.7. So both have increased in comparison to the previous quarter. Last quarter, the fourth quarter of the previous year, the purchase amount came down, but because we welcomed a lot of new members then. But this has come back up to the normal level once again. And since last quarter, we've started to provide the annual purchase amount and pieces per existing active member. So if you look at the existing active members, the average purchase amount was 63,004 yen, and pieces was 14.1 item. So both are growing steadily. This is maybe a I've already mentioned before, but why these numbers have grown more rapidly over the past 2 years is because we've welcomed new brands and also the active issuing of brand coupons as well as the CRM system. So we renewed the CRM systems, and this has enabled us to offer users more personalized communication, and these three factors are contributing to the growth in these figures. Next, the average retail price, which is on page 23. The average retail price was 4,099 yen, down 8.3% year on year. This has come down due to an increase in number of lower price point shops. And we will continue to, more lower price point shops will continue to join the platform. So the average retail price is expected to continue to decrease. But going back to the previous page, next page, the average purchase amount per shipment on page 24. Average purchase amount per shipment, the decrease has been milder. It was 8,530 yen, down 1.7% year on year. So of course this is affected by the lower average retail price. But as I mentioned on the previous page, the average retail price came down by 8.3%, whereas the average purchase amount per shipment only came down by 1.7%. Because we are now offering a wider range of products, and also we improved the user interface, which has helped increase the number of purchased pieces. Number of purchased pieces are increasing due to this, so that is why the decrease in the average purchase amount per shipment has been milder. And also this has contributed to the existing member annual purchase amount per existing member growth. And this is driving the overall annual purchase amount for all members. Next, or lastly, it's page 27. We have not made any changes to the business forecast, although we're off to a great start. We have actually announced quite aggressive forecasts, so in order to achieve these targets, especially in the third and fourth quarter, but in the second quarter as well, we need to implement new initiatives. These are aggressive forecasts, so right now we're still not going to revise our targets. So including promotions, we are going to implement new initiatives to be able to hit these targets. So that was a brief introduction of our consolidated business results for this quarter. Thank you. We would like to move on to the Q&A. Only those involved in the market. The questions are limited to the people who are involved in the market. Thank you. Please make sure to mention your company name as well as your name when asking questions. SMBC Nikko Shoken Kanamori. So I have 4 questions. First question is about June 14th. There was a system failure. So has that had any effect on the transaction value growth? And this is as much as you can disclose. Can you tell us what was the problem? What caused the system failure? And the second question is the consignment business has grown much rapider than the third quarter, fourth quarter. But new brands, deferred payment, and brand coupons are the 3 factors that you mentioned. But can you describe why the growth in the first quarter is much higher than the third and fourth quarter? Which of these three factors are contributing to this higher growth?
おっしゃっていただいたその新しいブランドが多分このおっしゃっていただいた順に効果は大きいのかなというふうに
And which of the new brands have the most effect in driving this growth? And the third question about shipping with Yamato. Are there any information? Is there any information you can share? Updates? Of course, we assume that the shipping prices will continue to go up, but are there any measures that you are planning to implement to respond to that? And the fourth question is about where. Can you talk about where and of course also about the private label as well, but I think that maybe you're falling behind in a private label, but if you have any updates, please share that with us. Thank you for your question. First question about the system failure. On June 14th, from 6 a.m. to the morning of the 15th, the site was down. The database, there was an issue with the database. It's not an attack, external attack or anything like that, and we have no personal information was disclosed, or so that's all we can disclose about that issue. So in order to increase the transaction value, we're going to be renewing the system. We actually are going to hire 42 engineers. That we announced previously as well. So that's where we are right now. So to make sure that these kind of system failures do not happen, we are trying to improve the system, but we apologize for this failure. The effect on terms of the transaction value, nothing really. It was only 1 day, so there's hardly any impact. And 1 day of transaction value does not really impact our annual forecast that much. So it's really, the impact is quite small. And the effect that it has had on the first quarter results is very small as well. About your second question, the first quarter consignment transaction value growth compared to the third and fourth quarter, it's growing more rapidly this quarter, and the main factor is a new brands that we welcomed, and also brand coupons. We actually changed the way we issue them. As we mentioned before, we're offering joint coupons, co-branded coupons, so that is also contributing to this growth as well. So we mentioned these factors in order of their impact. So new brands, deferred payment, and brand coupons. And your third question about Yamato, we're still negotiating with Yamato. So we don't know how much or when we will be pushing the prices up, but as we have mentioned before, we are going to work with Yamato and of course do what we can to help. The shipping industry, there's a lot of issues right now. But of course we want to be as cooperative as possible and also make sure that it remains convenient for our users. So in the future, of course, the prices will go up, but we don't know at what time or how much, so depending on that, we will develop our policy at that time once we have more information. So right now we cannot really go into detail about our policy yet. With respect to where or private label, Number of downloads is a little over 9 million, so it's growing steadily. And with respect to monetization, we really don't have any intention to monetize it yet. So we want to expand the number of users and also make sure that we have enough content. So those are areas that we need to continue to improve. With respect to the private label, there's nothing that we can say at this moment, but we want to launch the private label this fiscal year. So we can't really go into detail yet. In the first quarter, the private label we haven't really incurred any major costs for the private label business in the first quarter. So if the PB launch is pushed back to the next fiscal year, the promotion isn't really linked to the private label, so you may use the promotion cost for something else. Yes. We haven't really forecasted any promotion cost for private label at this moment in time for this year's budgeting, so we will continue to use the promotion cost for the ZOZOTOWN business. JP Morgan Securities, my name is Murata. I have 3 questions. First question, right now, as you mentioned, the transaction value growth. I just wanted to confirm the transaction value, it's growing much faster than maybe you expected, but the reason why it's grown much faster is especially because of the new brands and also the brand coupons. So you think that those have had stronger impact than forecasted, and also there's organic growth as well. But do you think that the organic growth is higher as well? So can you talk about the transaction value growth now and your forecast for the transaction value growth going forward? The second question is about the number of new shops. So before you used to mention that you would add 150 shops in a year and maybe 50 will leave, so you would have a net number of 100 new shops. But you added 47 this fiscal year, so it seems like you will be adding much more shops. Is that correct? And you mentioned that it will be 100 will be the net number of new shops, but how many more? Can you talk about whether there are a lot of more shops that you can add in turn the mid to long term? So number of shops is my second question. The third question is about fashion EC in general. So there's a lot of apparel shops that we've talked to, and fashion EC side, they said that there's a price competition among the EC shops, and they said that the growth margin has come down. Can you talk about that? Of course, you don't do any of the price competition. You don't participate in that. But if that continues to happen, there might be an issue with you being associating with an outlet, or there may be an issue in terms of the fashion EC side, including yourself, about the price competition. Can you talk about that in general? Thank you very much for your question. In terms of the transaction value, the growth, we haven't released our internal targets, but it is higher than we forecasted. And number one reason is the new brands and also the the second reason is the brand coupons. So these also have had a stronger impact than we actually estimated. And in terms of the organic growth, we set at 10 to 15% growth. But for this quarter, we think that it's about 15%. So it is from 10 to 15, but it's higher at 15% for this quarter. The second question about 150 shops, adding 150 shops, 50 leaving, and net 100. Really, we don't really have any control over how many shops leave. So there's a lot of brands have their own reasons for leaving. So I'm not sure. We can't really plan for a total number of shops, but we believe that there are still a lot of brands that we can add, whether it's a net only brand or some brands that we used to approach. We're actually adding new brands that it was very difficult to add for us in the past. So, but we actually were, for example, Shiseido has joined the platform, so we would like to increase those types of shops in the future. So 5 years ago, Hirose-san was the general manager of the business management, and he was in charge of the EC division. So he was in charge of the new brands until quite recently, so he understands the situation very well. And he actually came back just recently on the business management. So he's a great addition to our team. So if you have any questions about that, please direct it to Hirose. About the price competition among fashion EC sites, as you did mention, for us, we're not really part of that. Of course, our business model is consignment. So the price is decided by the brands. So in principle, it hasn't affected us at all, really, but we issue brand coupons, of course, but this is also based on the brand's needs. So we don't really think of this as a price competition. Having said that, maybe that doesn't apply to the fashion EC overall. So it depends on how you define fashion. So depending on how you define fashion, there are some areas where the price competition is actually becoming more fierce. So for those EC players, it might be quite difficult, but we're not in that area. We don't have the same brands. So in terms of where we operate, that has not happened. For you, of course, you're not really introducing any initiatives or anything, correct? We're not really concerned about that. In terms of the number of shops, if you might be adding 200 shops this fiscal year because you added around 47 this year, but do you know if that will be the case? There are a lot of new brands that we added this year that we couldn't add at the previous quarter. So they were on the waiting list. So usually there's not that many shops that join in the first quarter, but the reason why there's a lot this quarter is because there were a lot on the waiting list since the previous quarter. Kazuhara from Deutsche Securities, thank you very much. I have 2 questions. First question about the promotion going forward. So first quarter, it was you did very well. So a lot of people who made a purchase became active members, and you didn't really need to do much promotions to get new users during the first quarter, but second quarter onwards, what are some of the targets for your promotion? So that's the first question. And the second question, the number of shops. So there's a lot of new shops, not just fashion, but color contacts, for example, you added in the fourth quarter previous year. So those are mentioned in the earning briefs. But transaction value-wise, how do you think it will grow or expand? Do you think that the number of items that you're offering, the product lineup is adding to that, or is there a specific area that you're targeting in the future? Thank you very much for your question. About promotions, the first quarter, we didn't really launch many promotions this quarter. So we just actually continued what promotions we did since the previous quarter. But second quarter, after the sales period, of course, the transaction value targets that forecast we've issued is quite high. So we can't really talk about what we will be doing in details, but we want to get new members, of course, new users, and also activate the existing members. So those are key. So those are probably the targets where we will be launching promotions. Sorry, we can't really go into more detail at this moment. And the second, about categories, expanding categories. We actually have been expanding categories. 2 years ago, we did kids, bags, outdoor, shoes. So we've actually expanded into peripheral areas. But to expand further from there, for example, we're starting to offer cosmetics. I'm not sure yet how much synergy these new categories will offer, but cosmetics is a regular buy, regular purchase. So we hope that users will come visit our website regularly and purchase regularly. So we have high expectations for cosmetics because it has a potential to become a regular purchase. Thank you very much. Other questions? This is UBS Securities, Moriya. I would like to ask about the pay services. So Platinum and Premium, you stopped offering those services. Why did you stop offering those pay services? And can you talk about the share of your users and also the sales, the contribution to sales? And in the future, what kind of services do you think is in demand by your users? Can you talk about your strategy going forward? Thank you very much for your question. But paid services, of course, as of end of July, we ended offering those services. And the reason being, the number one reason is we offer Platinum and Premium. It's mainly shipping services. But because of the changes in the shipping environment, we took another look at redesigning these services, but we decided that it would be better to just stop offering the service. We just offered same-day shipping for free, return shipping for free, or all shipping for free, basically. And of course, because of the issues with the shipping industry, we decided that it would be best if we refrain from offering these free shipping services. And we didn't really have that many members to start with, so we didn't think that this will have any impact on our business. And in terms of offering any new pay services, we don't have any plans right now. Maybe in the future we might start thinking about offering pay services once again, but for now we don't have any plans to reintroduce pay services. Any other questions? There doesn't seem to be any more questions, so we would like to close the consolidated business result announcement for FY 2017 first quarter. Thank you for joining us today.